Okay, excellent. Welcome to the second session of our third annual Transformation Literacy Conference. My name is Dominic Stucker. I'll be your host for the day today. I am supported by a team here at the Collective Leadership Institute, including my colleague Katrin is with us, Katarina, Cholpon, and Guillaume will all be supporting directly. You'll see them in the text chat, you'll see them in the breakout groups. Today we get to focus on exchange networks and communities of practice. Many of you will recall that the focus on Monday for the Monday session was on partnerships and initiatives across sectors. A recording of that session is available online on our website for you to view if you wish. So I'm calling in from Spain, where I live with my wife and 17-year-old twin boys. I've been working with CLI for over a decade, and my passion is convening diverse actors to address complex challenges for sustainability, for equity, for justice. At the Collective Leadership Institute, we focus on 4 general domains of work. We have a Collective Leadership Academy through which we're building competence for leading change collectively. We work directly with stakeholders and whole stakeholder systems to support transformations that help realize the Sustainable Development Goals. We also provide research on methodologies, especially through publications, through speaking engagements, some of which we'll be sharing through this conference itself. And finally, we are convening collective leadership networks, the community around this conference being one example of a network that seeks to enhance collaboration for sustainability, for transformation. As you know, we've already had session 1 on Monday. Today we're moving into session 2 on localizing the SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals, in exchange networks and in communities of practice. I'm really pleased to be here and to be your host today. Before we dive into the program, however, I'd like to offer a brief technical orientation so that everyone can feel comfortable in this Zoom webinar space. First of all, you'll notice that I've listed my name as name, I have my organization, and my country is there. I would request that you list your name and your country as well, so that we can, when we see your comments in the text chat or we see you in the breakout rooms, we can celebrate the diversity of participants in the room. So please take your mouse and hover over your video feed. You'll notice a small blue box in the upper right with 3 dots. Click on those dots, and in the drop-down menu, please select rename yourself. So please rename yourself with your name and with your country. Thank you. Secondly, please have a notebook and a pen at the ready. While our speakers are talking, we're going to invite you to take your own notes. And finally, make yourself comfortable, of course, with a beverage and a snack. Now, if you look at the bottom of your screen, you'll notice a panel that has multiple icons in it. Of course, the chat feature is available to everyone, so you can comment or get in contact with others there. Please be sure that the small blue button lists everyone, so that your comment is not only going to hosts and panelists, but is also going to all participants. There's a separate Q&A function, a question and answer function. So once speakers have made their inputs, you might like to use the Q&A function to ask them a question. Speakers or myself or another facilitator will be able to answer. And finally, we have these reactions, which are a fun way to communicate their hearts, applause, their smiley faces, thumbs up. There they are, right there. Try that out. So during a presentation, anytime during the session, feel free to use that to communicate with us. Okay, that seems to be working nicely. Let's frame our time together. These goals apply to all 3 days of the conference. We are here to celebrate transformation practitioners. We're here to learn about concrete cases of localizing transformations for sustainability. We're also here to apply different collective leadership compass lenses for enhancing patterns of aliveness in collaboration ecosystems. Wow, there are a lot of terms in that goal, and we'll be moving step by step through that goal together. There are different lenses in the compass to look at different kinds of collaboration systems. Today, we'll be using a lens that focuses on peer learning networks and communities of practice. And finally, community building. We're seeking to enhance the collective leadership community's capacity for transformation literacy. Literacy in the sense of understanding a shared set of tools, a shared language for bringing about transformation from all levels, from local on up to the global. In this conference, we would like to set a few norms like we did on Monday as well. Usually norms like these are co-created by the group of participants. In this conference setting, however, we don't have time to do that in a high quality way. So we propose these conference norms, including respect for one another in all we do, and including patience with any technical glitches we might have. When you have a chance to express your views in the chat or the breakout groups, please do so clearly and concisely. And adopt, please, an attitude of seeking to understand as we listen to one another. Seeking to understand is quite a bit different than seeking to be understood. So in this case, we're looking for meaning. We're trying to create meaning together and understanding one another's perspectives. And related to that is also suspending one's own judgments, remaining open to others' perspectives. That will make the conference incredibly rich for everyone. All right. I'm being assisted by my colleague Katrine in the text chat. Let me just see if I can pull that up. There we go. Katrine will be regularly sharing some texts there. So for example, guidance around changing your name and country, making sure that you're sending your messages to everyone. Very good. So let's move into the program, into the topic. The day today, the next just under 2 hours, we'll focus first, of course, this welcome and introduction. We'll move into presentations from inspiring speakers and draw insights there, and go into more depth with breakout group discussions following that. Finally, there's a moment for us to report back and reflect before we close the conference. I'd like to invite you now to check in to the conference, so to speak. We're not checking into a hotel, but rather becoming fully present for our session together. Being fully present will make this an experience that is rich for everyone. So Katrina has pasted into the text chat this question of 1 to 3 words that you associate with transformative communities of practice. There's no right or wrong answer, but please offer us a few words to reflect on this idea of a community of practice. Go ahead and type them in, and we'll take a few moments to notice what's coming in. So I'm seeing words like, wow, oh, so many coming in. This is fantastic. I see mutual learning, learning from experience, a sense of belonging and support, sharing knowledge, learning and doing together. We have exchange, commitment, solidarity, diversity, interrelation, collaboration. Wow, great. Honesty, reciprocity, engagement, transformative learning as a team. Excellent. I see also empowerment. So have a look at the text chat to just notice what's coming in for us here. Thank you very much. You can continue to type your answers, and those will all be noted. We have sustainable human interest and change, collaboration, thriving through diversity. Thanks very much for those words. So we're warming up then to the topic itself. Each day of the Transformation Literacy Conference, we're focused on a different form of collaboration ecosystem. Today, we're focused on the peer learning networks and communities of practice. And we will focus on a related lens in the collective leadership compass. So here, our understanding of communities of practice is inspired by a definition that many of you probably know from Etienne and Beverly Wenger-Trainor. There's a link that you'll see in the slide, and these slides will be shared after this session. The definition that we adopt is a community of practice as a group of people who share a passion for transformation practices and learn how to apply these better through regular interaction. I think a couple of differences that we've added from the definition from Wenger-Trainor is this idea that communities of practice can be transformative. So we've taken up transformation practices specifically and feeling passionate about one or more of those practices. We're also applying those practices. It's not necessarily enough to exchange information, but a practice is something that needs to be applied. So how to apply these better? How do we do that? We're regularly interacting with one another, learning from lessons. We're exchanging best practices to increase our capacity for applying those practices. Now, the lens that we would associate with communities of practice was developed, not surprisingly, through a very participatory process. This is the newest lens in the collective leadership compass, and we started last June, so it's nearly been a year. We've had about half a dozen dialogues involving all the people you see here. Some of these people are collective leadership team members. Some of them are collective leadership specialists who have been certified through our academy and our certification program. Others are very deliberately partners from outside of the Collective Leadership Institute. But all of these people have in common that they are members and/or conveners of communities of practice. Now you notice that I've bolded the name Petra Kunkel, actually not because she was part of developing this lens, because she wasn't for the first time. She, of course, created the foundational collective leadership compass that inspired this lens, though. So gratitude to all the people listed here and to all of you for being here today to try out this lens. So the lens itself, any collective leadership compass lens has 6 different dimensions that I'll share with you now. And what we're seeking to do with a lens like this is to enliven collaboration. So we're looking to notice patterns of aliveness, patterns of vitality in collaborations, in this case, communities of practice, and not just notice those patterns, but seeking to further enhance them. So there's an assessment, an observation moment, and then moving toward entry points for further enlivening collaborations. So a shared vision for a community of practice. This participatory process resulted in this idea that members are contributing to a shared community purpose by intentionally seeking out solutions to entrenched challenges together. So that looking from the future possibilities dimension, we say here shared vision. In terms of engagement, this dimension, engaged belonging. Members are creating a sense of togetherness. I saw this in the text chat as well, the sense of belonging by participating in and contributing to high quality community events and processes. So a community of practice might be specific to one location, and those events and processes are happening in person. Other communities of practice are online and meeting online. At other times, you might have hybrid events that combine the two, or you get together in person from time to time. In terms of innovation, so innovative approaches, members in a community of practice are forging new pathways by convening in creative spaces, safe and creative spaces to nurture excellence in applying those evolving transformation practices we talked about. We wanted to add the word evolving here because we're not standing still. The practices are practices that we're learning and applying, and those practices are evolving at the same time. In terms of humanity, we feel a shared set of values is essential for a community of practice. Members are living those values by nurturing authentic relationships with one another and with the larger community of life, in the sense that humans are not the only species on planet Earth, but we're surrounded by many others that make life possible. We approach one another with appreciation, with care, also with vulnerability in a community of practice. So it's just as likely that you could share a success with another member of a community of practice as it is that you share a challenge or a difficult moment, the place for retreat, for rejuvenation, for mutual inspiration. In terms of collective intelligence, the diversity, this was also mentioned in the text chat by you, diverse exchange. Members are fostering a culture of dialogue, a culture of inquiry, a culture of dialogic inquiries, the seeking to understand that we've talked about as a conference norm even. We're engaging in learning and decision-making in the community that centers diversity, inclusion, and also transparency. And finally, under wholeness, we're looking at community impact. So members are enhancing their own capacity for achieving impact by supporting one another to lead courageously across complexities, across different scales, and also by connecting with complementary networks in the work we do. So this lens, as you see it, is also meant to serve as a way for you to listen to our speakers. So we have inspiring speakers lined up who are going to talk about their communities of practice. And so what I would invite you to do is make sure you have your notebook nearby and your pen. And Katarina is going to put some further links into the text chat as each speaker is talking. Those slides that she'll put there have this slide for your reference and also have the presenter's slides for you to reference. All right, and just check my timing here. Text chat. All right, I think it's time to introduce our speakers. Let's move here onto the next slide. So we'll move now into the next part of the program, and we'll have presentations. And I'm really pleased that we have a set of speakers with us today who are going to offer us insights into communities of practice. At the moment, here we are. We've invited all three individuals here. Katrin, please confirm. I'm not sure that Ani is with us yet. No, okay.
Not yet.
All right. We're having some difficulty getting Ani online from Indonesia, but we're very hopeful that she'll be able to join us in time. We do have Dr. Zodwa Dlamini. She is founding Network Leadership Council member with the Women in Water Diplomacy Network, and Zodwa is based in South Africa. She'll be offering us an input on that very network, on how that community is enhancing collective capacity for the genuine involvement of women water leaders in decision-making and in peace-building processes in transboundary basins. We also have ErnstJan Stroes with us. He is program manager with Connect for Global Change at the Wilde Ganzen, and he's also secretary with the European Network for Citizen Initiatives in Global Solidarity. He's calling in from the Netherlands. And he's going to focus on the latter network, on a peer learning community for supporting organized citizen engagement in Europe that helps enhance local sustainability transformations in the global South. So I'm excited for three different countries, also different geographies. If Ani is able to make it, her focus is very local on a specific center on an eco-village that she has co-founded that is dedicated to experiencing sustainability practices, applying systems thinking for community transformations across Indonesia. She's working with change agents across Indonesia. Zodwa is focused on a community of practice among women and looking specifically at transboundary basins. With ErnstJan, we're looking at another geographic scale, looking at Europe and how non-governmental organizations or NGOs support communities in the global south. So we'll look at different scales here. All right. I need to skip over Ani's slides, so just give me a moment if I stop sharing my screen here for just a second. Hopefully we can come back to those. But what I'll do now is invite Zodwa to the stage, if I may, and I'll share the slides for you right here. So Zodwa, as agreed, 8 minutes, please. And we very much look forward to hearing your story. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you have already heard, my name is Zodwa. I am the council member of the Leadership Council for Women in Water Diplomacy in the Nile Basin. And I am originally from South Africa. Today, we're talking about enhancing the collective capacity and genuine involvement of women water leaders in decision-making and peace-building processes in transboundary basins. We started the organization, the Women in Water Diplomacy, which was started by the Stockholm Institute of Water in 2017 and in the Nile. And when it started, all started because of the fragility of peace processes within that area. And when you look at the Nile River, there are 10 countries that are supplied by the same river. And of course, conflicts will always emanate when, you know, those are from downstream as well as upstream, not understanding. Others want, you know, because the priorities are not the same and the exigencies are just so different. And it was very important for SIWI at that point in time to start this organization. We were 5 women who started the pilot program and trained these women from all the 9 countries. Unfortunately, 1 country was not there. And it was an amazing process where women, for the first time, were learning about, you know, water diplomacy and not understanding what it is, what was their role, but also because most of these women were not in the, you know, leadership positions in their organizations, to be departments of water. Some of them came from departments of, you know, energy and foreign affairs. So for us, the strategy was get women to understand and empower them with knowledge, skills, and confidence to know that they can participate, especially when they see some of the women who have already done it before. And that was important for us and for SIWI to do it. And in 2021, that's the second slide. In 2021, we then started working as women in water diplomacy in the Nile basin on the strategy for the Nile. And fortunately for us, we were then joined by women from Central Asia and Afghanistan, and to work on this strategy, which was the global strategy for us. And that was very, very important. And subsequently at that time, the Leadership Council was also established. and I was one of the members that was selected to lead this organization. Let's move to the next slide. Thank you. And one of the most important things that we were concentrating on was the experiential exchange, because a lot of times we talk about, empowerment of women and capacity building, but we felt that if we bring our experiences and we talk about experiences, that cuts off the barriers and brings women together. Because by listening to my story, and I also listening to your story, then the barriers are sort of fall down, and we start speaking the same language. And then because it's also imbued by emotions, and so that for us was very, very important. And then also by learning from each other's experiences, sort of enhances our collective, learning, but most importantly ensures that whatever we learn together it's practical, but most importantly is something that somebody can learn from. But also, even if it may not be the same experience, but because I've heard somebody saying, this is what happened, this is how I did it, that helps a lot. And also experience exchange, for us, that was very important, especially because when you look at, the region that we are working in the Nile, as well as now Central Asia and Afghanistan, all these countries, they are rich in their own right with experiences. However, as Dominic said, most of the time, the stuff, but if you are not understanding, there's no understanding of why things are happening this way, there'll always be misunderstanding. So when you start, forging, relations, it becomes easy, because now it's not on a professional level, it's on a personal level. And then benefits of being part of the community of practice, it's because there's so much accessibility to global community researchers, knowledge, and also experiences of other people throughout the world. Let's move on to the fourth slide. And for us, as women in water diplomacy, we have the global strategy. That global strategy is anchored on five pillars. The first pillar is that of gender and youth empowerment in transboundary water decision making. And the second one is peer-to-peer learning, which also ensures that capacity development and experience exchange. And then the third pillar is about research cooperation in supporting networks and members and institutions all around the country or the world. And then the fourth pillar is the linkages to basins. As it is now, last week in Botswana, we were validating the establishment of the new network in the Orange Sinku in the SADC region. For us, that is also important. And then the last pillar is the pillar of the process support, which focuses on strategic analysis, designs, monitoring, and evaluation, because as you know, monitoring and evaluation is very, very important. There's no way that an organization can thrive and succeed without ever being anchored on the principles of monitoring and evaluation. And of course, communication for us is very, very important and very crucial. And partnership development, that for us is key, it's number one. And as it is now, we have formed this relationship with this organization. And when we move on to the next slide, thank you. Can we move to the next slide? Yes.
Yep,
And then when you look,
Zodwa, apologies, about
2 minutes.
2 to 3 maximum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. One of the most important thing is that when we look at the community of practice, it sort of provides a safe haven for everyone, for members, because there's communication, collective efforts, and identifying work opportunities. For instance, we have women members who were in Sudan. Some of them are in Afghanistan, as well as those who are in Ukraine and Palestine. And I can just share with you that in the last Global Forum network in Vienna, we had some of the members, who had been through these difficult places. And when they shared their experiences among their sisterhood and members, it was very, very touching that, and also, for them to say that this is where we feel safe, this is where we feel supported in this community of practice. And the next slide also shows, because that slide, the next slide, it shows that collectively we can, go to places as the UN, and our voices can be heard as it is in 2023 during the water conference in the United Nations, where our network was featured, but also made an impact. So alone you can't do anything, but together as a collective, we can, achieve a lot. As well as, when we were in Vienna, the same was happening. When we move on to the next slide, which is slide number 8, just so that I don't take much of your time. And one of the most important thing is that we need, as women, to ensure that, there's that respect, but most importantly, the support that you give to each other, and you listen to each other, and ensure that you also, ensure that those that come and, at a time of distress, they know that this community will forever be confidential, but most importantly, will hear, will listen, because the most important is about listening. And thank you so much. And I hope that I will be able to provide any other clarification should that opportunity arise. Thank you so much.
Zodwa, thank you very much. I think you see some of the reactions coming, the applause and the hearts just filling the screen here. I was really moved, especially about how your network is able to provide a safe space for women, even in very difficult context or very difficult times. So we're greatly appreciative for the work that you've launched, that you continue to do with the Water and Women Diplomacy Network. I think what I'll do is request that ErnstJan comes and offers his presentation, and then if Ani is unable to join us, we can have a moment for brief Q&A before we go into the breakout rooms. All right, Ernst, Stroes, it's good to have you here. ErnstJan, really pleased that you'll be presenting, and I think you'll share your own slides. As with Zodwa, please approximately 8 minutes, and I'll let you know with my shiny watch at about 1 minute. Okay. Over to you, please, in the Netherlands.
Thank you, Dominic, for and the CLI for having me on this conference on this subject of localizing SDGs in exchange networks and communities of practice. My name is ErnstJan Stroes. I work for Wilde Ganse as a project manager. I'm currently running a project called Connect for Global Change, which is a support project for small CSOs that want to work on world citizenship in their own countries. And I run the Secretariat of the European Network for Citizen Initiatives in Global Solidarity. That's my the name. And I can imagine you you have tons of questions. What are citizen initiatives in global solidarity? What are these things about? I think that Lions and Rotary clubs and all kinds of city links and city connections, etc., are known in many countries. There's a whole movement of small initiatives in each European country, basically, and in the United States as well, that gathers people in order to raise funds for global projects, to express global solidarity with people who have to live with the impacts of, let's say, climate change or the impacts of war and conflict, and try to support one another. And I think in 2014, we came together with a group of organizations that support such initiatives. And we found out that we all would like to stand for this movement of citizen initiatives in global solidarity, and that we would like to enhance and enable people to live in solidarity. That's basically what it's all about. And that were shared values. We came together and we started sharing, and we prepared a beautiful declaration all together, and so slowly came about the European Network for Citizen Initiatives in Global Solidarity. But of course, then the hard work begins. You know, you have a nice vision, or you have a nice shared. You found out that you have shared values, and then you jump into creating a shared vision. So of course, we had lots of discussions with several people and a lot of people, several conferences we had, and ultimately came up with a shared vision in which enabling these citizen initiatives plays an important role. Supporting them plays an important role. It plays an important role how we help them create capacity, and how we support them with further initiatives. That's, yeah. And we as well, we wanted to enable networking among citizen initiatives and global solidarity. It was a very important issue to us. So not only between the support organizations, but as well the organizations that do the citizen initiatives themselves, let's say. And which is not unimportant, these citizen initiatives they partner mostly with an organization in the global south. And we would as well, we wanted to understand and balance how they relate to one another and do research on that subject. So, engaged belonging. It seems to be quite difficult to maintain engaged belonging when you're only visual. And already for 2 years or 3 years, I think, we did not have the possibility to visit one another, and we didn't have a great conference. We had several conferences and met one another, and then you always feel that the networks get a little bit looser. But nevertheless, we worked thoroughly, and there are several proposals coming out of the network, and partners found one another. And at this moment, we have a network of 20 organizations that participate, and they are all together in 13 different European countries. So it's quite a wide network, and we look into possibilities to further extend this network and see how we can invite other organizations that support citizen initiatives in global solidarity. Diverse exchange, and here I have a picture of our research team, which did the latest research, consisting of, in the background, people from the global south who supported us with their research, and in the front, the people in the global north who did do several researches. The first research they did was about, let's say, the impact of funders on the impact of the funders on the way, and of regulators on the way that citizen initiatives in the global north perform. Basically, it was a research into what do they do, what is the impact of, let's say, legal regulations, what's the impact of funding practices in the different countries, and to find out how they are working. We did a comparative study, and already this study this basic study unveiled a lot for us and gave us a lot of insights into, okay, it's not so easy to register yourself in the Netherlands, for instance. And due to the fact that it's so difficult to register yourself, the citizen initiatives develop slower than, let's say, in France, where it's rather easy to register yourself. So there's a lot of differences in different countries, and the diversity of exchange really helped us understand why, for instance, in the Netherlands, citizen initiatives in global solidarity are a little bit less inclined to do global, global education work. And for instance, in France, they are very much about global education work. And later on, we followed this up with a research into, and what is the impact of those citizen initiatives in the global South? What do they do there? What kind of partnership do they go in? What kind of organizations do they cooperate with? How strong are these partners they work with? And we saw that these smaller initiatives, that there's one downside, you know, the upside of these small initiatives that are easily established is that they work very much on global citizenship education in their countries of origin. Where on the downside, in the global South, basically they cooperate mostly with individuals, very practical, hands-on initiatives, informal initiatives, where the more formalized organizations from the global North, let's say from Denmark, for instance, citizen initiatives, it occurred that these are much more focused on capacity building, on creating real solid organizations that have capacity to perform and to have an impact on the ground. I go to the next slide. Innovative practices. Yes, so we worked a lot together and we share our methods, our education methods. Here you have a picture of one of our trainings we do. And we share as well a lot of information with each other about what kind of training do we perform, and we're working on establishing quality exchange in the field of training for citizen initiatives in global solidarity, and as well on further exchange on other approaches. We share methods with one another. It's an important thing as well. There's a whole world in our website, Change the Game Academy, for instance, where small citizen initiatives in the global South can find tools with which they can, for instance, increase their fundraising capacity, increase their organizational capacity, but as well, we do the same in the global North and equip our citizen initiatives with tools, for instance, to work on global citizenship and to partner better and to support their partners better in a more equal way. Let me go to the next slide. But of course, everything is all about community impact ultimately. Ultimately, community impact is the thing that we would like to achieve. This is, by the way, a picture of one of my dearest initiatives where I was involved myself quite a bit, who are building, for instance, in the global South, they're building water reservoirs in areas where there is a problem with water supply in the villages. It's all about this community impact aspect of these organizations, and of course, it is important not only the community impact that they have in the global South with their partners there, but as well how they involve the public in these efforts they have, because ultimately it is all about sharing and having solidarity with one another globally. Yeah, reflections.
About one maximum 2 minutes, please. Thank
you. I will keep it short. Don't worry too much. This is the last slide, so should be okay. Yeah, regarding shared values, we see that there is many exchanges that there are many changes in the context, and they make it necessary to revisit the shared vision we have and the shared values we have. We have to revisit these because we see lots of changes in legal context. We see lots of changes in the situation in which organizations in the global north are working. And we would like to move forward with what we are doing. The thing is that, you know, such an international network, it's slow. It's pretty slow. It's not very agile. It's not a very agile construct, especially in its first phase. And we have to move forward. I think it's really needed to revisit our engaged belonging, and we would like to be together again and have a meeting. And we see enormous possibilities in increasing the exchange we have to unveil all learnings that come with diversity, because that's one of the things that we would like to see more and more and more. And this helps with innovative approaches. When you're together in such a broad network, you always find something new. But what I was looking at personally was that I would really like to have as well some innovative approaches that are on a network level, so that we are a better network than other networks. Just to be a little bit ambitious. Yeah. And it is important that we, as a European network for citizen initiatives, finally as well define what is our common impact that we would like to achieve. That's an important point as well. So, and then I covered all the patterns of aliveness and the community catalyst lens, and that's it. I have a last slide, which is just where you can reach out for me.
Right. ErnstJan, thank you very much for your input. I really appreciate both the humanity, the connection that you talked about between not only across Europe, but also with communities in the global south. So the humanity side, coupled with a very practical orientation in terms of tools and methodologies and funding and organizational capacity to help civil society organizations thrive and bring about meaningful transformations in their own localities. So when I glance at my notes, those are some of the things that really pop out. The ideas of global solidarity, the co-created vision and diverse perspectives, changing the game around innovation. So thank you for this input.
Thanks.
Excellent. Ernst, I am really pleased to say that Ani was able to join us. She's with us. So if you could kindly stop sharing your slides, I'll invite Ani to the stage.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Yay, Ani. You made it. We were worried, but I think this is evidence of the fact that the Transformation Literacy Conference is truly global. Ani is calling in from Indonesia. Oh my, look at all the applause already. How lovely. And there was a slight time zone complication. So Ani has made it and is ready to share her slides. Thank you, Ani. You have about 8 minutes, and I'll just I'll hold up my watch here when you have a minute left. Thank you for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry for this misunderstanding about time zone. So I will share my experience building a learning center in Indonesia called Rumah and Kebun KAIL. It's located in Bandung, West Java, Indonesia. Rumah means house or home, and kebuns mean garden. It's literally, there is a house, a home for everybody who would like to stay there, and also a big garden with a lot of trees and wild animals, and yeah, a lot of peace there. So we start in 2008 in a landscape like this, a lot of grass, and then it turned in 2001, it looks like here. So it has been a transformation process in the nature and also in the built environment. As you can see how it changed, yeah, after many years, yeah. And then in the beginning, since the beginning, we designed the location using permaculture principles, which we put a lot of effort in the beginning to regenerate the nature. And through the nature regeneration, we also regenerate ourselves with the new knowledge and our interaction with nature there, and also how we build the house using the principle of ecological principles, and then how to integrate with the community around the area, etc. So in permaculture, we have zone 0 to zone 5, and the design is the more number, it means that it is wild and required less attention. With zone 0, you need to do a lot of care in the house and a lot of work there. And then in zone 1 is the food production area, and then in the second you have animals, and then the zone 3 you have fruit trees, and then you have wooden, and then you have wildlife. So this is the landscape. A lot of biodiversity there, and we see along the time it grows, the number of the species there, it getting more by time. And we try to apply as many sustainable living practice as possible. We use second-hand materials, and local technician do the reparation of the materials, so build from the used materials into something beautiful, and we install biodigester to create to produce the gas for our stove for cooking, and then we do a lot of composting in the garden and the house. And this is the old materials that we use and turn into the house, yeah, the more beautiful one. And we have a lot of food there. After many years, we produce a lot of vegetables and fruits and native fruits, and then roots, a lot of herbs. So many kinds of food, especially local food, are produced there. And we have a lot of biodiversity, nature, and rice field. And this is coffee. It has beautiful flowers with a lot of different kind of butterfly. In the morning, they have different kind of butterfly. And this is the one that in the evening. Yeah, and the big trees, it becomes big. So from the grassland, we create sort of, we call it like, it's like a forest now. And we run a lot of workshop there in our little house. We do a yoga class, children learning about biodiversity, and they have space for learning together, do some exercise, and then we run a system thinking workshop, combine the inside and outside. We do a lot of games from system thinking playbook, and yeah, everybody are happy here. So it's also a space for healing. And what we would like to have here, everybody who come here feel that they are energized and they involve with us, get inspired, and bring the wisdom and the practice back home and share with others. And we involve many other community members, such as children, youth, and they are also working with us to build something. And through building something together, they can have the skills that they can also apply that in their home or in their community. So that's what we really would like to see in the future, that many places like what we have experienced here, because although it is small place and very local, it creates a lot of positive energy to the community. So that's all the story about Rumah KAIL. Thank you.
Wow, Ani, you presented very, very thoroughly and also very, very quickly. In fact, I hope you don't feel like you're running. Thank you for this really moving example of a community of practice, a literal community built with permaculture, a sustainability learning center where you're working with children, with youth, with professionals on visioning, on systems thinking. You know, I could see, I could almost imagine the different classes from the photos that you had and that you offered there. I appreciate that you started with the idea of a house and this idea of a garden and a space for healing. Also this broader vision around inspiration, taking wisdom home, taking the practices home. I understand that you work with change agents from across Indonesia, which is the most populous, one of the most populous Muslim countries in the world. So people come through your center and are able to then take their learnings back to their own communities. One last thing I really appreciated you saying was about regenerating nature, regenerating ourselves. I think part of this pattern recognition that we're trying to encourage. So the patterns in our landscapes might reflect the patterns in ourselves. Those patterns, the pattern of aliveness in this example was incredible. The biodiversity, yes, the butterflies, the coffee, the different plants, the rivers, there's different permaculture zones were really, really quite inspiring to see. And one last thought, the sort of the sentence you offered at the end about, I thought of Joanna Macy, this idea of a seed pod for the future, that what you've built there in Bandung in Indonesia, it models a certain pattern of how people can interact with nature, with one another. That is something that can be taken up in many places around the world. So thank you to you and your whole team for the work that you're doing there in Bandung. We appreciate it greatly and that you could share with us. Let me just check briefly if there were any questions. Katarina, did anything come through in the text chat or the Q&A at this time? No, okay, all right. So then what we'd like to do, and this is a different feature from past transformation literacy conferences. In the past, we've had a panel among the speakers, which can be enriching for the speakers to have some interaction. The goals we set for this conference focus even more on the participants and the participant experience. So the way we've set this up is that each of you now has the opportunity to join one of the speakers in a breakout group to discuss his or her case further. And so let me, if I share my slides here, we're moving into this breakout group phase of our time together. So here we are, in fact, right on time, which is great. What we're going to do in the breakout group. So I told you about the community catalysts. You were reminded about the community catalyst lens also from ErnstJan, because he embedded it right into his presentation. I just noticed one typo here. Let me catch this so it's not confusing. There we go. So what we'll be doing then is based on, so the notes you took, hopefully with some reference to the community catalysts, you might have heard about a shared vision or shared values or diverse exchanges or innovative approaches. You have the opportunity now to join one of the breakout groups. You'll have a speaker there and you'll also have a further CLI facilitator with you. Your facilitator will invite you to share the most important points you heard related to the community catalysts. And basically, you will have a slide that looks like this for you to capture some of your own notes. So you notice that there are speech bubbles around the outside that are color coordinated. So your facilitator will give you a chance to reflect on what you heard from your speaker and just to capture the key messages around community impact or engaged belonging and so on. And then you'll have a chance to notice what kind of pattern emerges. Maybe there are a lot of comments around certain dimensions, around certain community catalysts, but not so much around others. So this would be a chance for you to notice the pattern, notice the strengths, notice possible entry points for further enlivening the community of practice. The speakers are there first to listen to how you, the participants, are interpreting their case, and they might join the conversation toward the end in terms of these entry points for further enlivening their work. Now, what you notice in the text chat is that Katarina has pasted a link. These are the same links that she shared before, but here you have a link to Ani's slides, to Zodwa's slides, and to ErnstJan's slides. those will be the same slides that are used for documentation purposes. So before you join one of the breakout rooms, please be sure to click on the link to your speaker so that you have access to those documentation slides. So at the bottom of your screen, there we go. You'll notice an icon that looks like this. Please click on that breakout room icon. And then on the subsequent box that pops up, you'll be able to join the room of the speaker. All right, welcome back from your breakout rooms. I hope you enjoyed having a chance to discuss first among yourselves as participants, and then also engage a bit more with your respective speaker. And thank you in general to our three speakers also for having been open to this format to allow participants to observe and reflect on your stories, your cases through this community catalyst lens. What we'd like to do is invite each breakout group facilitator to report back about 3 minutes each. In general, they'll share slides, and Katarina, I'm happy to share the slide for you. So what we're looking for, please, in reporting back is just a brief reflection on the discussion and the pattern that emerged. If you could highlight areas that the group thought were strengths in the community catalysts and any possible entry points for even further supporting the good work that's happening, further enlivening the community of practice or the peer learning network that we had. So let's go in the original order of our speakers, which would have been from Ani to Zodwa to Ernst. So for Ani, this was Guillaume was facilitating. If you could come up on stage, there he is. Guillaume, go right ahead. Three minutes, if you would kindly share your documentation slide and let us know how it went. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Before sharing my slides, I want to give you a big thanks to everyone who was involved in the discussion. There was a lot of curiosity to learn more from Ani and understand more the case. So it was a very, very rich discussion. And I think with that, I'll be sharing my slides here. So as you see, there is quite a lot of input there. I won't go into detail for each of the points there. But what we saw together was a pattern very strong on humanity, basically because people came organically to this initiative without having strong funding. So it was really people were doing that because they wanted to be there. So it felt that the initiative, it's very strong on that specific dimension of shared values. Then another thought when we moved to discuss the strengths that we could see there. It was we thought that perhaps engaged belonging was something and linked to the dimension of humanity, that people moving in that community with Ani were making an effort somehow, putting that together and being there because it's the way that they decided to live. It was a very strong engagement there. And in terms of how to enliven that initiative, Ani mentioned that in Indonesia, a lot of people perceive that sustainable living is just accessible to a few people, usually wealthy people, and they are bringing that vision, that shared purpose, that sustainable living, it's available to everyone. So increasing that dimension of shared purpose and expanding to the people who that shared purpose can reach out. So I think that's the overview, and thank you to everyone once again.
Thanks very much, Guillaume, for reporting back on your discussion. Something I appreciated, I looked at the slide as it was evolving. I noticed that people use the different dimensions to also ask questions. So, but based on different catalysts, it's a mode of inquiry as well to learn more from Ani. And I'm glad Ani was there to respond. So a focus, strengths definitely in shared values, engaged belonging, potential for even more expansion through shared vision, which I think Ani invited at the end of her presentation. She says, yes, this is welcome. This is a model that can be adapted and used elsewhere, of course, and is being used elsewhere in different contexts. Let's please move on to Zodwa. Catherine, could you bring Cholpon onto the stage, please? There she is. Great. Cholpon, thanks for having facilitated. Could you take 2 or 3 minutes and share the results of your discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Dominic. I'll be very happy. Well, first of all, I would like to thank everybody in our group who, because together we contributed also to this, applying the community catalyst lens to the case of the Women in Water Diplomacy Global Network. And of course, thank you very much, Dr. Zodwa, for sharing this inspiring story of how it all started and how it grew. So let me share my screen with all of you here, please. Yeah, if you could please confirm that you see it well. Maybe I just do this slideshow mode.
Slideshow, please. Yep.
Yeah. So what we noticed as a group about our pattern is that it's quite a balanced pattern that emerged here when we applied the community catalyst to this concrete partnership system. Yeah, we have quite a strong manifestation here in the shared values, in the engaged belonging, and then the diverse exchange. But if I focus more on those 1 or 2 strengths which were also shared by the group members, it was this combination of water issues with the diplomacy approach, and actually bringing in the water aspect, let's say, and applying it to the broader context of why the situation is like this, who is responsible, but then who can also contribute to those issues. So it was seen really as innovative and present in the network. What was also very important, because we learned from the story from Dr. Zodwa that it's a very safe, I mean, the intention is to have the safe space, not only to learn and exchange, but just to be there as a person and as a professional, grow and have this feeling of belonging. And for that, the prerequisite also, as according to the group members, it's the respect for the expertise, for the knowledge, because it's like one of the key values within the network. And again, referring back to Dr. Zodwa's story, it's not only about this bringing in and exchanging the knowledge, but also appearing as humans, building this authentic relations in the space. So those were the 2 strengths as identified by our group. And we had some other ideas on the potential entry points, which could be serving as to enhance the aliveness in this partnership further. So we had heard from Mingutsu from Ethiopia and Ralph and other members that the work should be continued within this collective as a collective, and further working with the diverse actors, the local networks, but then also the local and national governments, and then I mean should be there, and this transboundary approach should be strengthened. I hope I didn't exceed, but I'm sure I did those 3 minutes. So thank you very much, and thank you, Dominic, and thank you, group.
Thanks very kindly, Cholpon, and Dr. Zodwa, to you as well. A balanced pattern in the compass this time, entry points around sort of continued work with a broader and broader diversity of actors. I definitely would agree that the shared values was an especially strong dimension. I think I would pause too and point out in community impact, it's twofold. One is the impact that a community of practice or a peer learning network has on its own members, sort of how it enriches its own membership, and then outwardly, what kind of impact does that mean that those members can have in the work they do, in terms of, in this case, working in transboundary basins, getting more and more women into decision-making and leadership roles within those basins. So both of those can be considered part of the overall community impact of that network. Thank you, Chopon, for having reported back. Let's invite Katarina up onto the stage. Katarina was facilitating the group with ErnstJan, and I can share the slide for you, Katarina.
Yeah, thank you, Dominic. Yeah, we had a nice discussion in our breakout room, and I think there were also a lot of questions towards ErnstJan and the SIX network. People are really interested in how this network is functioning, how it is growing, and how it is working together. And you might see also that we had a quite balanced pattern around the community catalysts. Like for each catalyst, there were at least some values that we found and that are holding the group together. And but I think especially two patterns emerged. So we saw that the starting point for the SIX network really started around shared values. People came together because they are all working in global solidarity. They have a strong identification with common values, and the reasoning behind the SIX network actually is this shared value of global solidarity. So that's how people came together. And that's how actually they achieved their impact, their community impact, which is then the ultimate goal of the SIX network. And actually each member is working through mutual support and connection here. And they really share value with the communities for transformation and reaching their goals, no matter what is the issue behind, for example, water or food. And we actually also found out that there could be like one challenge regarding the SIX network. And this was more towards the blue axis, where we have engaged belonging and diverse exchange. We know in a virtual network, which is spanning like 13 countries and 20 organizations already, it is hard really to keep people not only engaged throughout the time, but also we reflected a little bit how it would be to how to make an onboarding in a way that new members can join the network and then easily get accommodated with how things are running in the network. And then we had some thoughts about maybe formalizing the learning exchanges and strengthen the network by this formalization and also by standardization. And just to think how we can integrate new members into this network in a way that it's not taking too much time, but it's valuable for everyone. And so that they can also, for example, share their innovative approaches. Because one of the other reasons behind this network, or which makes this network very strong, although sometimes it's not very agile, not very fast, but members share innovative ideas. Everyone is coming from a different and a diverse background. But this also means that if there is a problem at hand, people will come up with new ideas and new solutions. And actually, why we also thought there might be a solution to this challenge is also because there is such a strong shared purpose. The community is really working towards one common goal, and the purpose achievement is really the basis of this network, and they are not working to gain any financial benefit or so on. And that's what's making this network so very strong. Yeah, that's about the community catalysts. And I saw that in our group there were a lot of interest into the SIX networks, and a lot of people still had a lot of questions towards ErnstJan. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Katarina, for having facilitated that group discussion and the reporting back. Something that I notice across all three communities of practice, and this may be coincidence or not, it sounds like shared values were really an essential glue for each of these communities, that was really essential to have that there. I think, Katarina, in ErnstJan's case, you also brought in, of course, shared purpose, being something that maintains a certain focus in the community of practice, and that might be a way to ensure that feeling of engaged belonging, that sense of belonging among new members. I agree that that's not easy to achieve in an online community of practice. It's something that we work on with our accredited specialists. We have a community of practice among them, and it's an online community. So creating that sense of belonging can be challenging. All right. Burns, I see that you have raised your hand, and I'm not sure that we can turn on your audio, but if you're able to type your question, that would be most welcome, and we can take that. While Burns is doing that, offering the question or comment, I guess it's already been clarified. Let's shift to two things. One, for participants, many of you were introduced to the compass for the first time today through this lens of the community catalysts. Katarina has pasted a question for you in the text chat in terms of how was this experience for you? Did you find it challenging? Was it insightful? Was it confusing? Was it useful to listen to and observe a pattern in these different communities of practice? So feel free to write your response there. In parallel with that, I'd like to ask a similar question to our speakers. So Katarina, if we could have our speakers back up on the stage. I'm curious to hear from them what the experience was like for Ani, for Zodwa, for ErnstJan, to have this external model, this collective leadership compass model, the community catalysts, used as a discussion framework, as a way to recognize possible patterns and ways to further and enliven the great work that you're doing. I might just suggest we go back to the original order of our speakers and go from Ani to Zodwa to ErnstJan. Just please a minute each, just a brief comment on what you thought of this process. Thank you. Over to you, Ani.
Yeah, so I think it is a very useful exercise, although it's very short. What I would like to do, I think this is very valuable for us. So maybe we can do it for my community and check what have, so how our community see our living practice through this lens. So yeah, I'm curious what they think about it and how it. I imagine that it can be a reflection tools for us who implement that. So and thank you for all the writing. Yeah, I will show you to my group as well. Thank you.
Thanks very kindly, Ani. Indeed, it's a major difference to have the people who have just learned about your work apply a compass lens to what you're doing. There can be some utility in that, but it really heartens me to hear that you would like to apply the same lens to a discussion in your own community. That will be a very profound assessment because people are living directly that experience of being in your community. So thank you for that. Let's move to Zodwa. How was this experience for you? What are the main feelings or thoughts that you're having now?
In fact, it was interesting when I was observing, the feedback coming in, and as I was looking also at the campus, it was like, wow, unknowingly to us, this is what we have been living by, because when you look at the very first one, shared vision, how members contribute, because it's not about just one person dictating as to what it is done, but we are such a diverse group of women and men that come across, from all the networks that we have, North America, Central Asia, and Afghanistan, and and the Nile Basin, now Orange Single, when you look at that diversity, it's an amazing, and it also attests to the richness and the wealth of knowledge and experiences that people will be sharing with each other. But most importantly, also the issue of belonging. As I said, for me, it's like it's the framework that we live by, because it's about belonging, and all of us was providing the safe haven and providing a space for women to be able to articulate their fears, their aspirations, and somebody is there to hold each other's hand, And so for me, I'm like, wow, really TLCs are doing an amazing job, especially bringing it together into focus. That for me is important, and definitely this is something that we will share. But I also remember that in Vienna, Choplon used this also to share with us, and was like, wow, we are partners indeed with TLC.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Zodwa. Thank you very much. Zodwa's final reference to Cholpon. Cholpon is also a member of this network, and so the two of them already know one another quite well. I think Zodwa, a point that's important to all of us at CLI is the fact that practitioners often know deep down how to collaborate, how to enter into dialogue, how to create high quality processes, but it may not be fully transparent. It may not be fully systematized. It may not have the added value of a framework, a supporting framework that they can refer to and then use with colleagues. So often it's a relearning. This is deep in our bones, and perhaps making transparent of that knowledge that's there. So thank you for having been with us and having taken this up in the conference. Let's go to you, ErnstJan. How are you feeling? What are your thoughts on this process?
Yeah, it was great to do this exercise actually, and to see all the different insights shared by the participants of our group, because it really helps you to rethink where are we at this moment, and how can we proceed with our work. I see we do a lot, and then we fall back sometimes, and sometimes in the day-to-day life we have the feeling that it doesn't go fast enough. Especially it doesn't go fast enough because there's a feeling of urgency in what we need. On the other hand, we have to respect that there is time needed, but then we need to make sure that we take the right steps, because otherwise we are losing time. So I think that's an important for me and thing. I found, I really see it as a big value that all participants of the group actually told about these shared values, and that they see it very clearly. For me, it sometimes becomes obscure time. If you're working day to day on a network, then it becomes sometimes something that is not completely present with you. And I definitely see the options we have for extra diverse exchange and strengthen the engaged belonging in our network. That's absolutely there. And thank you very much, and very valuable to be part of this. Yeah,
I'm so glad. One of our main goals today was to celebrate the three of you and other transformations practitioners. So it's been an incredible pleasure to have all three of you here. Ernst, when you were talking about using the compass to both assess, where are we, what's our current pattern, and to plan, where do we go from here? I think your points about it being non-linear is important, and coupled with a sense of urgency. That's tough to live with, to both feel the urgency. I think this is probably true for most of us in this conference, a sense of urgency coupled with knowing it's not linear. And to me, that means we have to be kind with ourselves and with one another. that these communities of practice can be a place also of kindness, of a place to retreat, to rejuvenate, to inspire one another, and then to go back refreshed into the partnerships that we talked about on Monday, or into the transformation networks that we'll be talking about on Friday. So again, let's all give a big round of applause to Ani, to Zodwa, to ErnstJan for having been here with us. We're really grateful for your time and for the dedication to this good work that you're doing. Yeah. I'd like to share just a few resources, if I may, and I'll do that via a couple of slides. I mentioned earlier that we have a certification program for collective leadership specialists. One of the foundation courses in that certification program is being offered in June. So Katarina is providing you a link in the text chat to this one, The Art of Leading Collectively. Feel free to sign up and join us for that workshop. It goes much deeper into the compass, including assessments at the individual level. If you have ideas for collaborations with CLI, reach out to us. The email address is there. We ourselves are a civil society organization and welcome collaborations with you. We have an open source book that summarizes our methodology, not only the compass, but the dialogic change model, and is full of lots of cases and examples. So feel free to download that as a PDF. It's open source. And finally, we have just concluded our first Transformative Partnership Award. And in fact, we have one of the winners with us today. Burns is with us. So that's fantastic to see you among the participants. The call is already open for next year. So if you have a particular project that you want to submit, please do so there for the Transformative Partnership Award. You can learn more with that QR code. A special initiative that we're just launching this year is a Young Peace Builders program. So these are young people aged 20 to 35 who are working in conflict or in post-conflict settings around the world, advancing peace not only in their communities, but also in themselves. So this program takes an approach of looking at inner approaches to peace as well as outer ones. We currently have such inspiring applicants. We have more eligible applicants than we have spaces. So if you are able to make a modest donation or a big donation to this program, it will help us increase the number of participants. The money will directly go to increasing the number of participants. There's a QR code here, and Katarina is sharing in the link. Your contributions are very, very welcome and appreciated. And finally, let's wrap up this session with a checkout question. I'd like in the text chat, I'd like you to please respond to this one. What one feeling, thought, or even open question do you have as we close this TLC session on communities of practice? So you'll find the question also in the text chat. Just one feeling, one thought, one open question that is still with you. Feel free to type that into the text chat and then enjoy reading what others have to share. Okay, question from Douglas on learning and sharing with new members in a community of practice. Yes, yes. For me, it's a feeling. Grateful. I'm feeling right now. Barry has more questions. Barry, feel free to include one. Barry is one of our specialists in the United States. Ani's happy. That makes me happy, Ani. Enrique, feeling a sense of enhanced community aliveness or enhanced sense of community. That's indeed one of our goals with these conferences. Chalpan is grateful, happy to have worked on the exercise. ErnstJan is inspired. Tansin Bach, stimulating learning. Excellent. Barry's also happy. Good to know. Damien, communities of practice as a vehicle of creative emancipation from our unsustainable present. Ooh, wow, nicely said. Yep. Farangis is feeling inspired. Nice that you're with us. Zaviko, feeling gratitude for work. done all over towards collective liberation. Excellent, thank you. Adegbite, motivated to put all into practice, gratitude and hopeful. Okay, this is what we're trying to achieve with this conference. So thank you for having been here today. We're going to close this session, and in the coming days, you'll find documentation on our website, including the video, the PDF of all the slides. Continue to follow us, please. You can find us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Zing, and a bunch of other platforms I'm too old to understand or know about. So please stay connected with us. We're trying to build community for collective leadership, for enlivening the collaborations we're all working in. Thank you.